Welcome to ARCH Talks, a video podcast series focusing on the challenges, trends, and evolution of the workplace. Today, we're going to be focusing on how education may be able to influence future workspaces. It's part of a special series where we also discussed retail and hospitality. I'm your host, Monique Pothoff. I'm a consultant based in Paris, France. Well, thank you so much for being here, both of you. Would you mind taking a second to introduce yourselves?
I'm Charlotte Bonneville. I'm working at JLL in the Project and Development Services department. And I'm leading the Practice for Higher Education project. I hold a Master in Engineering and I've been doing mostly projects of mixed-use development, net zero energy building, and also, of course, higher education buildings.
Great.
Impressive. So I'm Audrey, and I've been in the corporate design for a while, I think about 14 years. Started in France, but then moved to Hong Kong for nearly a decade. So I specialize into workplace design. I had under my belt the workplace strategy team for Asia for quite a while. And now I'm directing the office branch for Moser. So very happy to be here today, and you can see the background, the team working really hard.
And you just opened the space recently, right?
Yeah, so you're in a fresh new space. We moved in last March after 2 years of office space that was not our space, co-working. And we're very happy to be here and to have such a premise for us in our collaboration.
Great. Well, thank you so much, both of you. So as I mentioned previously, we're talking about how other industries can influence the workplace. So we started with retail, then we did hospitality, and today we're going to talk about education. So as we all know, we've been through a lot the last couple years with COVID and environmental issues and so on and so forth. So a lot has changed and has accelerated in the last 3 to 5 years. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys, with your experience, your collective experience, what are some of the changes that you've seen in workplace design and education?
Okay. Well, it's one of the biggest questions from our clients today as to what did we see change over times, like the last couple of years. I actually like to take the question in a reverse, sentence, saying like what did not change as well. Because there are things that are going to be challenged by our criteria of selection or what actually matters to the workplace and to the people at work. But in the process, like the design house, I think we pretty much work the same way. I think for the last 20 years, as for Moser at least, this question around the health, the security, diversity, inclusion, all that was already into the big picture for most of our clients. And the process where you get to build something with the client, because it's pretty hard for us, and we wouldn't say that we know for sure what the result is going to be or what the solution should be. So it's always a dialogue between us and the client. And so I think this will always remain as for what has not changed. But to respond to your first question, I think security, health, diversity, inclusion, and as much flexibility as you can, multi-usage, all those words are big words that we are trying to implement.
Perfect. Thank you.
So for me, on the higher education side, there have been indeed a lot of change these past 5-10 years regarding what's going on in the higher education industry. So there's a major competition between the different school, university all over the world, because there's a narrow space. Everything is closer in terms of distance because of the digital
online courses and so on.
Exactly, because also transportation and everything. And so this major competition has led to huge focus on the real estate part for the higher education sector. So there's a really real motivation to build a strong image and identity, which is also seen into the real estate within the building, with the fit out, all the design around this higher education space. Another thing that we've seen in the past 5 years is that there's a pressure on the real estate side. So either the rent are going up or energy cost is getting more and more expensive. So there's a real need to optimize space, optimize
right
costs.
size, yeah.
Exactly. So there's a huge focus on having the right intensity of space use, which means same as in the real estate office industry, you need to have more flexibility, more modularity for the space. That cannot be used only for one.
Yeah, it can't just be a boardroom and that's all it's
exactly.
used for. Yeah.
So there's a major focus on space intensity. There's also a new focus on mixing diverse type of people, diverse type of expertise. So there you can see the emergence of cross-disciplinary labs. And this requires specific space to mix people for one specific project that will last 1-2 years and then we'll switch to something else. Okay. So flexibility also is very a key thing. And also like a totem of higher education is going to disappear slowly. That's the amphitheater.
Yes. The traditional tiered seating auditorium, yeah.
Exactly. We've seen in the last project that we've developed at JLL that where you could have had like 6 to 9 amphitheaters in one school, now you only have 1 or 2. Because you don't deliver teaching as you were doing before. It's you cannot teach now with like one professor in front of all the students just sitting there and listening.
Lecture.
Well, there's not enough interaction and
so it's really exactly that's the key word for higher education now. It's collaboration, peer project, peer review, and everything is based on the project side, on the interaction you can have with other people, either the other students or with the professor, because the technology has replaced everything that could be done like on a descendant mood in a way, like when you sit and you just listen.
Well, and I think it's not super reflective of how people actually work in an office environment. Once you get out into the real world, you're not just watching someone lecture in front of you, you're working in teams and you're having to interact and figure out the different dynamics.
I think it's also to do with the active learning. Like the fact that you will be more innovative and more engaged if you are participating. So that goes back to what I was saying around co-creation and being part of the solution. And my husband is also working in the same higher education industry. I observe the way he works and his consideration and my consideration from my corporate clients, and there are a lot of similarities. And I think there's a question around the togetherness, but it's treated differently. So yes, we are still together in the same office or in the same school. We are as many, depending on the peak of occupancy or presence. But are we all together the same way? And is there only one way to be together?
And then there's asynchronous and synchronous work as well. Are they having to work on the same schedule and the same team?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot to consider. So something that we talked about previously was the fact that, you know, everyone is kind of working online now. And that's true for office environments as well. But people are having a craving for interaction, community, collaboration. What are some ways that you've maybe seen learning institutions implement certain spaces or initiatives to get people to come together more?
Yeah, actually, there's also new spaces that are kind of like new compared to like the 10 last years. It's the Fab Lab spaces that you didn't see before in higher education environment, at least not in like business school. It was only dedicated for science or things like this. And so you can see this type of space that are meant for people to get together and create in different ways. And we see more and more space for collaborative space, same as in the office industry. space where you have mobile furniture that you can move around to change the fitting of the
Modular spaces.
Exactly, yeah. So that you can host different type of gathering and make sure that people are here to collaborate, and more space like co-working style, where you can just sit and work in group or focus
and
on
mix
something
the
else.
populations
Exactly.
together. Exactly.
And there's also something that we can see in higher education space is the you don't see library, or at least it's not called like this anymore.
That's right.
It's called a learning center, or exactly. And it's more to get together and learn together than just like take a book and focus on something.
It's less individual and more collective. Yeah. Absolutely.
But I would add to that the collectivity of it is super important, and I think we're treating major meetings, large meetings, differently. So we're creating like hubs, which I think is a new notion in the school as well. And you think about it, and you think like you're not only here to be taught, but you're here to learn. And we address students, but also there's also the teachers that we need to attract and retain and enable them to be the best teacher and have the best teaching abilities. But yeah, I think it's all about the community, but it's also about the individuals. I think it's a trend that I would see converging between school and corporate. The attention, and maybe that has to do with COVID and the fact that we were alone and self-reflecting for a while. You
brought a lot of things out.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
yeah.
And also because you realize that you also need sometimes off, and the principle that you would be in the office space throughout the day, expected to be visible, reachable at any time, and in the same position, is long time gone actually now. So the individuality of it is very important. So. When we design the workspaces, we're trying to think about people at work in very multiple positions. I'm saying postures, whether it's the setting that is different and offers you to be high, low, lower, relaxer, to be loud somewhere, to be quieter. So we address the panel. I think the variety is very key.
Well, and I think that segues perfectly into my next topic, which is linked to this directly, inclusive design. Inclusive design is a term I've heard more and more and more of in the last, I want to say 6 months to a year. Not just considering, physical needs, but also for people who have neurodiverse profiles, or they have other needs in terms of learning. They may learn very differently, and so they have to be trained in a different way. So my question would be, how can workplaces incorporate some of these, principles that are already used in education to support these various profiles?
So yeah, in higher education, there's a focus on this diversity and inclusion topics for a very long time now, because as Audrey was saying, there's a huge diversity of population in higher education. There's the administrative staff, which is closer to the office industry, but you also have the teacher, you have the students, and students are also with a very broad variety. You can have people out of college, high school, and you can have people coming back to school after 10 years of career in the industry. So you have very different people with different needs, different way of, different expectation regarding this school. And in terms of design, how it's included into a project can take different ways, I would say. For instance, for the diversity inclusion, you can have non-gender restrooms, so this is like a minor thing, but it's small things in the design that can facilitate the inclusion of everyone.
Same in the workplace.
Yeah.
You can also have a space dedicated to one community. So for instance, in a business school, they have specific space for executive education, which is separated from the other. But you still have space where everybody should gather to make sure that it's inclusive and it's not segregated. So
or exclusive.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Definitely.
it's a very difficult balance between the fact that each committee should find its bubble, its like nest where they feel comfortable, and the fact that they should all gather and create a sense of community around the school and not just around this tiny community of their own programs.
And what do you two think the benefit or the benefits are of mixing these different populations in both workplace and education?
Well, I think and this is again a similarity, but at school you would say we are not longer dedicating a room for the French teacher, because she's only going to teach like 3 hours a day, and then
Sure.
So we're trying to have this sort of multi-usage, and we can say the teacher starts and then the other teacher can, so multi-usage, flexibility. Same for the workspace. You would have different usage for different typology of and understanding that the day in the office is not always similar to the next day or to the previous day, and so you need to accommodate that. Labeling departments or labeling, I think, divisions of school or categories is going to limit the cross-pollination and the innovation you can get out of it. So we found that people come back to the office not because they have to be productive on their own or because they want to be with others. There's a mix of the two, but crossing path with unexpected encounters, this will be very rich, and I think makes the reason to come to the office very true. Yeah. Like both on productivity, but I think on a social reason as well.
Yeah, they can learn from each other.
And the same for higher education, because the whole goal of higher education is to find a job by the end. The idea is to build this network for like the fun, but also for the future. And so the fact that you can run into anybody within the school can help you build this network and for now and the future.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I can see that both at school or in corporate, you would, there's no career path that is already written. And there's no school path that is already written. So I guess every worker or every student is still trying to find out why are they, where are they heading towards, what can they learn along the way. And you enrich your experience by meeting others. So all of a sudden, because you've spoken to someone else, you can see another perspective to something. And that's something I've learned being in Asia for so many years. When you're within your culture, and that's really exactly related to the question and topic, but within your culture you can only see things with various perspectives, but as soon as you open up, then you can enrich this. And
yeah, and you got a direct experience with that living in Hong Kong.
Exactly.
So moving into kind of projections of the future, what do you think are some innovative solutions that educational spaces are going to be using, whether it's within the AI realm or other technological advances?
Yeah, for the technological advances, it's up and coming. It's the virtual reality usage. So it's already done in some university, but for now it's there's very few universities using this or schools. But there will be a usage for this for training the students to difficult situation or things that you cannot do in the real life. So it would be very useful, for instance, for surgery training.
Medical-related
exactly,
professions, yeah.
Exactly, or for teaching health and safety, of this kind of field. So this is coming, but it's not well broadcast now.
Is that more of a budget issue, or?
I guess it's both, yeah. Technology is here. There's some company, I won't say the name, who are up and running, but I guess there are still watching it. So higher education is very a field where the different schools are watching the others and see who's going to do what, and managing the strategy compared to the other. It's really a competitive field. So maybe once everybody will have their virtual reality room,
they'll all follow suit.
Exactly, yeah. And
on
the AI side, what I can see coming is that it will really replace all the formal training, because you will just ask the AI about all the things and you have the answer.
Okay.
So which will focus the importance of what we just said right before, of gathering together, meeting, having space to collaborate, because I can see that the learning, teaching will be around project, around the experience, more than about just the materials of learning that you can access very easily through the AI.
Okay.
So it will reinforce the need for space to collaborate and meet with small groups, medium groups, and this kind of thing. Yeah.
And online, of course.
Yeah.
And,
also, yeah.
Do you say MOOC?
MOOC, exactly.
Yeah, well, AI in the corporate world is taking more and more space, as we know, even though it's virtual. But it makes our life pretty really impacted. So I think it's a strength for design. So, you know, designers designing school or anything.
Sure.
Because we often spend, I mean, we have for the process, we need to design tender documentation, detailed design for any type of door and how it's going to be built and how it's intertwined with the rest of the room. So this documentation, you will think that some of it could be done as a common basis, and we don't need to repeat this. So that's the human, you know, power to invent more progressive way and save time where you can. And then if you save time somewhere, then you're also empowered to actually make that time useful for developing further something like a concept or. So I think
it's another tool.
It's
like
another
a
tool.
calculator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's an empowerment, the way I see it. Even though the line between where AI can stop and where we should start is continuing to be blurred.
Absolutely.
And AI, I think, is something interesting, and I've seen in one of my recent projects. They were trying, it's a large corporation, I can't name, but a bank, French bank, that was trying to find a way to say we are ahead in the workspace environment. And they do school as well. I mean, they invest in school. And the AI came as a solution to build their workplace into the AI world.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm trying to see how can we be in a hybrid work mode, but still being like as present as we can. So creating that sort of other world where people could encounter others, where they could meet and they could chat, and like if they were in the real world or if they had come, you know, commute an hour per day. Yeah. So, but the other part of tech, which I found the most interesting for school as well as corporate, is the use of data. So the technology, and even in this office here, you can, I mean, we exaggerated.
Well, and that's super important in measuring what's actually needed so that you can either keep the current space you're in, or you move to a new space, or you let co-working entities into your space or lease out your space. So yeah, but there's
you
a lot
optimize.
of things to do. Yeah, and then there's the other side of that is the sustainable aspect. It's not just a monetary decision. It's, okay, we have this huge space. Who's using it and when? Exactly. And how are they using it? Because you can be LEED certified, you can be a BREEAM building, but if you're not using it properly, it kind of cancels out a lot.
Yeah, it's greenwashing. Yeah,
exactly.
And I want to link back your first question to maybe the last. I don't know if it's the last question, but COVID and the future, like has changed and what it's going to make tomorrow. For both subjects, I think the notion of empowerment will be very central. You know, we have this motto from Moser that says "people at work." So, you know, we design for the end user, and I think it's very important to recognize that what my staff wants or what the students want when they pick a school is that they want to be recognized as individual and as people who have a vision and a mission. I have clients that are building schools, and they tell me, well, if we're not, or even companies, that are trying to look at hiring some typology of students, and they say, well, they are canceling on us because we're not sustainable enough. You know, and so you know this it can also backfire, like where you
it's part of their decision-making process.
Exactly,
Yeah,
the criteria of choice.
It's a huge topic in the higher education field, and every student now wants the school to be green, but real green, not just like greenwashing. So they want to,
because they can see through that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the generation coming in that are aware of what's going on, and they can see through if it's just like a label that is just not used, or certification for nothing. They want like real fact in front of the motto. And as you were saying, it's very important that it's put in action in the real estate as well. Yeah.
And next we'll have to deal, I guess, with the fluidity of the workforce, but as well as the students. You know, and that goes with empowerment. Like, I can choose where I want to work, I can choose how I want to work or learn.
They have options.
They have options, and we should empower that. And as designers, that's what we try to deploy every day.
We covered everything, so.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.